How's it going, everyone? My name is Chad. This is my first video in a series I want to try out. So I built my own PHP framework, and in order for me to check it out as part of a rigorous testing process, and also I'm going to be coming up with new ideas on this notepad for future updates. I'm going to go follow this official Laravel bootcamp course for building a Twitter clone called Chirper. Instead of using their framework, I'll be using my framework, and I will be noting the differences while recording these development sessions, and we'll see how things go. So this is a 2-hour course. There's going to be about, there's intro 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 sections at least. So I might break this down into a little bit shorter. I might skip over some stuff, but I'm not sure yet. But this is the groundwork for my test app. So let us begin, or should I say cabbage us begin. Same plant, different cultivar.
Hi there, and welcome to the Laravel Bootcamp. This course is meant to be your first look into what Laravel is and what it has to offer when you're building web applications from start to finish. But before we even start writing any code, why don't we take a look at what we're going to be building? So this is Chirper. It's a friendly micro-blogging type platform where users can post little short messages. We'll call them chirps, and you can see what others are saying, edit, delete them, everything you might expect from something like this. You can think of it like your own little Twitter, just with fewer billionaire buyouts. So this is hosted on Laravel Cloud. That's chirper.laravel.cloud for a real online live demo. And throughout this course, we'll walk you through how to put your own version of Chirper on Laravel Cloud as well. So we'll be building authentication, being able to sign in or register accounts. And when you do sign in, you have the ability to edit or delete past chirps. But like you might have seen, you only have that ability for the ones that you've created once you've logged in. So
So let's point some things out. Is I'm not sure if they're using like a pre-built package like Breeze or something else with authentication already there in the views, or they're just going to build it out themselves. But my framework has all the views and everything all set up. It just has a starter pack. I could separate it out into a base project and let the user build their own layouts if they wanted to. So that's going to be one of the main differences.
Let's get started. And chirp. So everything that you've seen is what you'll be building as you follow along with this bootcamp from start to finish. If this is your first time building anything with Laravel or even seeing any Laravel code, well, you've come to the right place. By the end of this bootcamp, you'll have a solid understanding of how to build a real working web application with Laravel from start to finish and what Laravel gives you out of the box. So are you ready? Let's start shipping and let's build your first app. Let's start by setting up your first Laravel project. To do that, we'll start at the documentation at laravel.com. So whether you're on Mac OS, Windows, or Linux, laravel.com's documentation has clean instructions and a one-line command that you can paste into your terminal to get started. What this does is if you don't have PHP and Composer installed, or even the Laravel installer, this will install all of that in one simple command for you. Since I already have it installed, I'm going to skip this step. One easy way to see if everything works.
All right, so it seems like I have something here already. All right, that was a beep. So this is also a test for my new headset. Oh, this is a very old test. Oh yeah, that is very old. Let's do a shift delete. But so this will be our kind of our working area.
worked is if you type php-v for the version of PHP that we just installed, or even the Laravel-v, which will say that, hey, you have the Laravel installer, and in this case, I have 5.17 up and running. Now, I will note that if you did have PHP and Composer installed previously, you could use this Composer global require Laravel installer command to get this up and running as well. After running that command, you might have to quit and restart your terminal session in order to make sure everything that it installed is available for you globally. I'll go ahead and do just that. And so we're ready to go. I have a code directory that I like to put all of my projects in, but you can run the Laravel installer wherever you see fit. I'm going to type Laravel, new, and then I'm going to call this Chirper. We're not.
All right, so well, let this finish, and then I'll do my version of
I
everything.
can use a starter kit for right now. And while we won't be touching testing in this course, I'm just going to leave it with the default options. Again, we're going to use the default options for this course, so SQLite is perfect. And you guessed it, we'll stick with the default options, so running npm install in order to install the JavaScript dependencies for our application. And look at that.
And we're going to match the database setup, so we're going to be also using SQLite, or was it SQLite?
The application is ready in the Chirper directory. So we're going to move into that directory with cd chirper. I'm going to clear out this terminal, and you might have seen that last note in order to get.
All right, so let's go set things up. So it's for me, it's kind of like running a new installation for a Laravel app, but without herd or anything that they're using here. So it's a composer create project. All right, Chirper.
Get this application up and running, we can use Composer Run Dev. What this does is it kickstarts the development process, the development server for us. So not only do we have our assets ready to go at a specific Vite port, but then we also have our app URL for this Laravel application. I'm going to open this up in our browser, and there we go.
All right, so one thing they have is one command to start Vite and the PHP server. This is a good time to take notes because the project is still installing. All right. That is not a big deal breaker right there. That's just kind of like a nice to have. All right. So now, well, I need to catch up. So I need to open up a new folder. Going into auto drive because I usually do not store files on this VM. Everything is on my host. And let's kind of get another window over here. Stop. All right, stop. Let's give code some more room. All right, so well, I don't have an artisan command, so I have to do this. Excuse me. And I think that's PowerShell. No, I want a command shell for Node. So now our Vite server is running, and this is similar to PHP artisan serve. So now we go here. That's my home screen. Compare it to here. It's just kind of like a blank canvas.
Here we go. We're using Laravel.
So this is more of kind of like the starter app when you install my framework. It's kind of like Breeze. You just have a home page, login already set up for you. They're going to be starting from the beginning.
12 for this current version of the Laravel Bootcamp. With our Laravel application up and running, why don't we take a look at the code that the Laravel installer generated for us, even without selecting a starter kit. I'm going to be using VS Code as my editor of choice for this bootcamp, but the good thing is it doesn't really matter. You can use any text editor or IDE that you like. Laravel works great with all of them. Some popular choices include things like VS Code and Cursor, which neatly, both of which have their own extension specifically for Laravel. This is the Laravel official extension. It works great with VS Code or any kind of VS Code forks like Cursor. If you prefer a more dedicated IDE, PHP Storm is a favorite among PHP developers and Laravel developers, but no matter what you pick, you're set for a smooth ride. Even PHP Storm has its own Laravel IDEA plugin, which is free for users of PHP Storm. Before we get any further, I do want to take a quick time out to talk about Laravel and AI. Laravel is designed to work beautifully with AI assistance. In fact, the framework includes Laravel Boost, which is a powerful tool that bridges this gap between AI coding agents and Laravel applications. It detects what is installed in your application and then allows those AI assistants to then work with it effortlessly, while providing documentation as well as just being able to interact with your Laravel application the way you expect you would interact with the Laravel application. So while I'm not going to have any AI assistance or even AI autocomplete turned on for this course, AI and Laravel does make a fantastic pairing. And if that's something that you would like to do, I would recommend checking out Laravel Boost, but it's not going to be an integral part of this course. You can ask AI to help explain some of these concepts and debug issues, and I might make notes of where Laravel Boost helps when we're building out this application. But just remember, the easiest way to learn is being able to write it out yourself, or at least have a better understanding of, if AI assistants are writing this for you, how does it actually work? Now, as we get back into it, I do want to give you a quick high-level overview of the project structure that the Laravel installer generated for us. We have our chirper directory. That's where we installed this application. And in here, we have app code, and this is where your PHP code, things like models and controllers, are going to go. We'll talk a little bit more about those as the course progresses. Then, I want to direct your attention to this resources directory. This is where your views are going to go. In this case, where does your HTML go? You can think of these blade templates as HTML with a little bit of extra magic and superpowers on top. And then we have this routes directory. This is where we can define our application's URLs, or when a user hits a particular page in your application, what should happen. And then lastly, this database folder. Now, the neat thing about this directory is because we selected SQLite in the application installer, we have a database specifically just as this one file, database.sqlite. But in this directory is also where things like our migrations are going to go as well, telling our database what happens. And again, we'll dive into all of this at a later time throughout this course.
So just going to point out that I started out basically using the Rua framework, which is an educational PHP framework started by a guy named Curtis Parham or Parham. His channel is Free Skills, and it's matched his setup initially. I can actually go pull up so Google Ruha framework, and there it is. Oh, there's a fork, and that's my actual project. This is a fork of the actual type of code base, so you can tell the difference. There's a whole lot of differences here. It's an app, kind of, a little bit, but the actual underpinnings are all here. So this this whole thing here is basically app, some other stuff like config, minus core, all the styling and views going to resources, and then you have all the other stuff. So unlike Laravel, I still keep the index top level.
Just wanted to give a high-level overview of all of this and what it actually looks like, the things that you're usually going to take time and spend time in within a Laravel application. All of this might look like a lot now, but you'll be navigating these folders with ease very soon. I just wanted to let you know that there's really only going to be a couple of them that we'll spend the majority of our time in. So don't check out just yet. So we have our application, we have it open in our text editor, and then we also have our development server up and running to see any of the changes that we make. I think we're ready to get building. So when you first opened up that link, that URL that the server is running on, when we ran the composer run dev command, that's 127.0.0.1, this is on port 8000, you're greeted by Laravel's friendly default welcome page, at least for Laravel 12 at the time of this recording. And when we take a look at our code, that's thanks to this route. In routes, and that's that directory, web.php. It looks like this. This little bit of code tells Laravel when someone visits, thanks to this route facade, when someone visits the homepage, the /route, we're going to show them this welcome view. And again, since I'm using VS Code with the official Laravel extension, I can have this option click to be able to follow that welcome view to this welcome.blade. This is where that web.php route is saying when a user goes to / or the root directory of your application, we're going to return the view that is welcome. And
all right, so let's go over some differences. So this is my route file. So we call it acl.json. So in Laravel, you use the route file to set up your views, and you can integrate your middleware, and you can also set up your groupings for access control. Here we're just using simple JSON objects. So I have an object for guest, login, and admin. My equivalent for,
and that's what this,
if I go back, the welcome view will be home. And if I go here, type in the route name, it takes me home.
Application, we're going to return the view that is welcome. And that's what this view looks like. Let's make some changes. Let's update this to, let's say the home route. I'm going to save that. And because I have the VS Code extension, it's actually giving us an error right here in the editor. The view home is not found. And if we were to open up our application,
So this star means that you have access to everything under the home controller. And then if you go into views, home, here's everything. So what he's going to do is going to create a index.blade.php file, and that will be your new home page.
we get that same server error. This view home is not found. So what can we do about this? And again, if you're using the Laravel VS Code extension, not only does it tell you that this view cannot be found, but it also gives you an easy way to fix this, to create a new home.blade.php file. But we'll do that by hand for everyone following along. In our views directory, we're just going to create a new file. And I'm going to call this home.blade.php. Now, we're not going to get an error anymore, but if I was to go back, it's just a blank page. So why don't we go ahead and create this home view. Now, I'm just going to paste in the entire code so that we can get this up and running as quickly as possible, and we'll walk through it step by step. If you're following along on the Laravel Learn page, you can find it below this lesson. If you're not following along on the laravel.com/learn page, that's a great place to find this code. Now, a couple things to note
I'm gonna have to figure out
that
the theming.
Blade is just HTML. We could have a whole script tag in here if we wanted to, or we could have a style tag. Everything that you see in this file is just HTML. Blade just has a little bit of templating on top of that we can get into in a little bit. Now for this application, we have a couple of things that we are giving you out of the box, even on top of what Laravel already provides, just to make things a little bit easier and keep the focus on what Laravel does and how we can build applications with Laravel.
So everything here is kind of very simple. It's just a PHP file. So through the head here, and then you got the body. So I just have start and ends for start head, and then end, and then start body, and then end. So everything that's here, I can just put right in here. And if I go to layouts, default, this is the actual layout. So it creates everything for the head, the title. You got similar stuff here, app.css, app.jsx, because this is React ready from the start. And then you import your main menu, the parent container, and then anything that's in here between start here and here is injected here by this function call.
Laravel and less about styling and everything like that. Laravel already gives us Tailwind CSS out of the box, and it's set up for our application to use. So when I go into this home directory, what's happening is when we use this @vite directive, we are saying we want to use the
using Tailwind. Do I want to go that far? I have no idea.
the app.css file and the app.js. And again, just to keep things as simple as possible, focusing on Laravel itself, we're including Daisy UI as one of the links that we're bringing in.
Which would mean I don't know if I can. I mean, I could try it. Let's see here. Yeah, that would be a big pain in the rear.
Mostly to be able to have some styles out of the box. It uses Tailwind CSS, so we're just building on top of what Laravel already gives. You can see here that we have this data theme of lo-fi. That is Daisy UI. All right, now
I'm just going to adapt what I have to match this. This is what is going to happen.
now that we have that saved in our code editor, if we go back to our browser, we should see the, yes, now updated chirper. So it started.
All right, so let's get started with something. So, all right, so now we go into env. All right. And that's good. And then let's get rid of all of this stuff. Then I'll figure out how to do that. I think it's let's come up with a name for the container here. Welcome CSS. All right, comment just like that. All right. Welcome. Let's see here. I suck at this stuff, but I'll figure out how to center that thing. Let's see here. We need a border. So I can figure out what's going on. So it's a 1px. All right. I sometimes wonder if I am getting way over my head in this. All right. Uh. Hmm. What is it? MD call 8. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why I don't like that, but yeah, I'm familiar with that class. W75. Uh, nope. I always keep on forgetting this stuff. They had a light background here. I built my own framework, and I'm relying on Google like it's my Bible. So if you are getting started with your own development journey, do not feel discouraged. I am going through basically just doing everything from scratch here. I mean, that should be it. I would think. All right, yeah, it's working. Okay. Now, do that. Just the contrast with what you call it. Dimming of the screen when, you know, the night shift mode kind of messes with me, because you're doing things here on localhost and you're doing it again in the guest, and these are not very high contrasting colors. But now if you think about it, I'm thinking about it now, you can definitely tell this color is different than this color. All right. And I want a 5px or yeah. I'm just cheating because I'm using different things. All right, so let's see here. This should have a class called MS67. And then MY3. Basically the same.
Starting to look a little bit better, but this is where all the fun actually begins. All right, we have this HTML file here, our home.blade.php, and you can imagine this would get a little bit complex.
All right, it's time to create our Git repo. So, all right, so now. All right. Then let's create a new repo. Sharper. All right. Just remote at origin. And then didn't like me shortcutting. You can do get push. You're just explicitly doing main. That's kind of like the standard just be safe practice.
Plex, because if we were to...
But I've seen people more senior me just say, just get push.
use additional pages, like say a sign in or sign up page, we would copy everything and then add it to a new sign in page and then change the things that we need to change. But then if something small changed, we needed to change on everything. This is where blade layouts, or in this case, a layout component that is a blade file, this is where those come into play. You can take your content from these views and then that gets injected into the layout.
This is nothing special. I'm doing the same thing.
Via this special slot variable. It looks something like this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layout component to take everything here, let's say everything in this.
You see that slot right there? That's basically that.
Main div and push it into a slot. So any new page that uses that layout then automatically gets all of this extra stuff attached to it from the get-go. What we can do is in our resources folder, in our views, we're going to create a new folder, a components folder. And in that components folder, this is what Laravel looks for. We're going to create a new layout.blade.php. Now for right now, I'm just going to copy all of this and put this in layout.blade.php.
I've separated layouts from components because these things can get very cluttered, and you also want to have different layouts. And my command line stuff, if I do console here, make layout, so I can do just right there, and then just change the menu or whatever. You have a different type of menuing system, and then you're good to go.
PHP. And in this main class, I'm going to take this out.
And this is also me trying to learn how to use Laravel, which is kind of what I studied Laravel to help me build this framework. So this is a weird story.
And add this slot variable. So that way, anytime we are using this layout.blade.php, it's going to use all of this, including the HTML document, the head, the vite, as well as any other additional things that we add to this file, and it's going to pass it into this slot. So basically any other stuff that we add to a file in this layout will be put right here. So that's what we're going to do. In home, we're just going to take all of this. Actually, let's just copy this within the main div. I'm going to replace everything. We're going to say x-layout. And then I'm going to paste everything in x-layout. And this is wrapping this up. Now, Laravel knows to look for a layout in the views components directory. And you can see here that the Laravel extension automatically says that, hey, this is valid. And so if we were to look at our browser, we shouldn't see any change because we just kind of took this one file and made it into two files to make it more composable in the future. And yeah, if we refreshed even, we still had and have this application looking exactly how we expect. We're going to do one more thing. In our layout, we're going to make this title a little bit more composable instead of something that is hard-coded into this file. And we're actually going to use some PHP here to say, okay, if this title variable, and we'll get to what this looks like in a little bit, if it's set, let's use the title. If not, let's just revert to chirper. And what this is going to do is now we can set this prop of title in our layout where we're using that in our home.blade.php. Okay, what does this look like? Well, now we have
There's set title. I don't know. Let's see here. We can investigate that. As a prop. I got a different way of doing things. So you can do okay. All right. So let's go back.
Have that in our home.blade.
If title is set, it'll be title dash chirper. And my env, I can have something dash chirper. But that gets overwritten. I'll be having to create a function to actually make that work, like a helper with all that in here. Basically just that code, I would think. But it's also getting late. It's almost an hour long. Let's go continue, and then I'll figure this out offline, and then I'll show you what I did.
.php. Okay, what does this look like? Well, now we have this x-slot variable allowed, where we can pass it the title and say we're just going to use welcome. So if I was to save this and go back to our browser, refresh, here in the browser we see that title, welcome chirper. If I was to change,
so for now, this isn't really a big deal here, so I think I can just do yeah.
change this to something else, such as hi there bootcamp, we should see exactly the same thing. Yep, hi there bootcamp chirper. I'm going to change it back to welcome. Next, to start setting up our application for a little bit more composability in the future, we're going to add some styles to our app.css file. You can find these in the Laravel Learn page for this course lesson. And pasting this in, this is just a way for us to have a fade out animation. That way we don't have to think about this later when we set up notifications. And this is Tailwind CSS's V4 way of doing this within an application. With all this in mind, we now have an application that is ready to start adding pages. We just have to use this x-layout in order to get everything that we would expect within our application. This nav, a footer, and then a simple layout to be able to add things here. We're ready for the next lesson.
All right, so that's it for tonight. So let's go do it. Go ahead and do All right, and then we go back to app CSS. Is there like a all right. I like that, but I lost my I think that's good. All right. Oh yeah, those messages are kind of annoying. All right, so I think that is it for this section. So we've gotten 16 minutes in. It's a good start. We'll see. I'll watch this video and see how it goes. See if it sounds like garbage or not. So this is the end of part 1. We'll continue to later for the deploying the app section to see what that's all about. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.